Hello everyone and welcome to a dead horse. Really, that's all we can say about this game is it's dead. Absolutely dead. Right now. The game is not worth it. We may have survived the chopping block, the EA's chopping block, but you know, we are not going to survive much longer, to be honest. I just spent 45 minutes in the group finder queue as a healer. I just spent as well. Oh, someone's having the worst walker attempt ever seen. Yep, no one can do ops. Ops are not doable. HM flashpoints, forget them. 45 minutes in the queue as a healer. 15 minutes in the queue as a tank. DPS, not even fucking worth it. Alright, so we'll get to the point of this video. We're taking a look at the 3.0 Scrapper Scoundrel, because we've missed out on this one. We missed out on the Scrapper Scoundrel. It's been my main, you know, so we guess we should do that. Main a healer Scoundrel. Makes sense that we're standing behind the targeting dummy because we mostly do things from behind. So anyway, let's go in and check out the class and check out our utilities. So the biggest change to this is the fact that we have lost Shoot First. Shoot First is gone. Yeah, no Shoot First, our signature ability. It's disappeared. It has been integrated into Backblast. Also our Flechette round, gone as well. Our Flechette round, how cool was that? We need that as a kind of emote or something like that, or just like a little toy item. Now you get the Cartel Market toy items. We need that back. We need that because it was fun. You know, you were waiting for a battle. You were waiting, not a battleground, a war zone. You're waiting for a war zone, and you know you would always see those scoundrels. That little satisfying click noise that they had when they were loading the round into the shotgun, or even the operatives with their acid blade. That is gone now. That's satisfying. We need it as a toy. Maybe have it as part of the smuggler class quest or something. Maybe give us the toy. So we can use that, the Flechette round loading thing. The other big thing that's gone, a lot of things that have gone here, is Orbital Strike. Yeah, Freighter Flyby in the smuggler's case has gone. Really, absolutely disappeared right now. Yep. So our AoE is pretty garbage. Yeah, so let's take a look. What have we got new? What have they given us? You know, they've taken so much away from us. We've got Bludgeon, which you get at level 41, which essentially hits the target with the shotgun instead of the pistol, so it just replaces Blaster Whip. So we don't use Blaster Whip anymore, we just use Bludgeon. Does a bit more damage, generates upper hand, so it does a little bit more damage than that. Other than that, there it is. Still hits him with the pistol. It says hit them with the shotgun, was meant to be. Bashes the target with the scattergun's butt. No, she hit him with the pistol. Corso, fuck off. Go away, Corso.
Fine. Could use some shut-eye.
Yeah, good. Get rid of that idiot. Corso! I just call him the idiot. So it doesn't even hit him with the butt of the scattergun, because she clearly hits him with the pistol. There you go. There you go. So there you go, that's what changed. The other big change is Blood Boiler, which effectively is a replacement for our Shoot First. It summons a probe that boils the blood of the target. After a few seconds, the damage dealt by one of our bleeds will trigger an explosion, which does deal a massive amount of damage. Makes the target assailable for 45 seconds, and assailable targets take 7% more damage from internal attacks, not elemental, because we do not do any elemental attacks. That is the operative. I wish it would take that out of that. Please take that out. So yeah, it procs off of our bleeds. So our two bleeds come from Flechette Round, which is just a passive on Backblast, and Vital Shot are our two main bleeds. So you have to have at least one of them up before Blood Boiler will proc. I'll show you Blood Boiler. There it is, a little probe. So you'll see it there, and again, the target's blood is boiling, so if you fire that off, again, you'll see it does damage there when we fired our Vital Shot off. You can see it explodes. It takes 3 seconds to explode, so you want to keep your Blood Boiler. It's going to be kept on cooldown. You can use it in conjunction with Backblast for your Flechette round. So you can see Black Blast grants you bleeding Flechette round, and it gives you your Flechette round. Basically your armor penetration increase, and it gives you the little dot as well. So you get your Blood Boiler up, With the flechette round, it's wore off there. We'll fire that up. What happened to the target? What happened to my blood boiler? It didn't explode there on the dummy. That was weird. Anyway, so that is the main change to the class. There's nothing else really that's massively different. It still revolves around upper hand. Spending, generating and spending upper hand. That is the main goal of the Scrapper Scoundrel. So we'll get to our utilities now. Pretty standard here for utilities. You've got Smuggled Get Up. Reduce all area effect damage by 30%. Generally, you're going to swap this with Scar Tissue. For fights that are big AoE, fights like Sword Squadron, again, not a lot of people do PvE as a Scrapper Scoundrel, mostly PvP spec, but you know, if you want to do it, you're probably going to switch between these two for your damage reduction. It's going to come down to a choice, basically, between these two. A lot of AoE damage, 30% less AoE damage is very, very nice, or if there's not a lot of AoE damage, 5% all damage reduction. It's pretty nice. As a healer, we tend to just take both of them, because we don't really need Let Loose. Blaster Volley deals 25% more damage. Now, Blaster Volley is a piece of shit as an AoE ability. That is it. Grenade, Blaster Volley. That's our AoE. Pretty garbage. The worst AoE spec in the game, I have to say. Blaster Volley is just so inconsistent that it barely works. Sometimes it hits multiple targets, sometimes it doesn't. The targets are in front of you. So if you generate an upper hand, let me show you Blaster Volley. It is just a frontal cleave. Sometimes it will hit a target in front of you, sometimes it won't. Just, you know, sometimes it'll hit multiple, sometimes it won't. It's very inconsistent. But again, if we're going to be doing some AoE, if we're going to be dealing with ads, then we're going to take it. We're going to have to take it. Flash Powder is not the most useful thing in the world. We can't stun raid bosses, so kind of useless. For PvE, PvP, you're going to take it. Reduce the accuracy of 20% for 8 seconds after our flash grenade finishes. Holdout defenses. Slapping a target with Blaster Whip or Bludgeon grants holdout defense, which increases our movement speed by 50% for 3 seconds. Again, it's not really the best. Again, there are fights where we do have to move, but we just tend to use Scamper when we need to move. You know, Scamper tends to be our movement increase if we have to get out of things, so has limited uses in PvE if you ask me. Sneaking increases our movement speed by 15% and effective stealth level by 3. Increase our movement speed by 15% while stealth, I should say. Again, very useful. Useful for getting to things quickly, and you know, because we need to be behind the boss at all times, so we want to be running behind it. And again, increasing our effective stealth level, so we're less likely to pull things, because we always start the fight behind the boss. Our first attack is always going to be Back Blast, and we're going to get our blood boiler up, so we always want to be close to the boss. We want to be within melee range and behind it, and we're going to be in stealth when we start the fight generally. So me standing here seems to make sense now, because we want to be behind the boss at all times. Otherwise we can never use Back Blast. Move on to Masterful. Tendon Blast immobilizes the target for 2 seconds. Again, for PvE purposes, it's not the best. Do we really want to immobilize the target? If we need to immobilize a target, we do have Shank Shot, which is another new ability. Shank Shot is not the most useful for PvE. Again, it does immobilize the target as well, so if we want to do that, it's a waste of a utility to use Tendon Blast. I just prefer to use Shank Shot. Shank Shot, bear in mind, costs no energy, so you should use Shank Shot as a replacement for Flurry of Bolts. So if you've got nothing to press and your choice is Flurry of Bolts or Shank Shot, use Shank Shot. Shank Shot, bear in mind, is a melee thing, so if we have to be at range, then I'm probably going to use Flurry of Bolts. So bear in mind, it is free of energy costs, so before people say it's useless, it's useful in PvP, certainly. It's another immobilize effect for us. It just shoots the target in the... what is it? Shoots the target's shank. That's what it looks like. It shoots them in the kneecaps, basically. As does Tendon Blast. Essentially, just this is the same animation. So lazy. So lazy when it comes to the smuggler in this one. So again, not the most useful for immobilizing. Anatomy lesson. Reduce the energy cost of Dirty Kick and Tendon Blast by 5. Again, Dirty Kick is our stun. Again, we stun things by kicking them in the nuts. So, you know, you've got the Force, which makes the, you know, all-powerful Sith with the Force. But if you kick them in the nuts, they'll go down like anybody else. So that's the Scoundrel way. That is the... Ooh, Scarab Underwalker. Oh, that's the one that drops from the... That's the pet. I'm pretty sure that's the pet that drops from the champion. Is she on? Yeah, it does drop on Yavin, the Scarab Underwalker. It drops from the other thing. Anyway, back to what we're saying. But yeah, Tendon Blast tends to be if we need to stun things. It is kind of useful if we're questing, because we like to stun things quite often. Again, if we lose aggro to our companion, we want to be dirty kicking things, or we have to start out of stealth and we get aggro. And yeah, it's the champion, the named champion that drops that pet. The next one, med screen. Your defense screen heals your 5% of your maximum health when it collapses. Pretty useful as well. Useful for healer, useful for a DPS as well. Defense screen is one of our best kind of. It's one of our certainly most usable. It absorbs a bit of damage. Defensive cooldown, should we say? Absorbs a decent bit of damage. We might as well get a free heal, 5% of our health at the end of it. We might as well. Flee the scene, reduce the cooldown of Disappearing Act by 30 seconds and Sneak by 15 seconds. In addition, Disappearing Act increases movement speed by 50% for 6 seconds. Situational. It's kind of situational at best. Really, this one. Again, can be used. Disappearing Act is useful if we need to dump threat. It's also useful if someone dies in the middle of combat. We can use Disappearing Act, and then we can use Sneak and then revive them, of course. Bear in mind we have no cooldown on our revive as a Scoundrel. We have no cooldown. On our res, the Disappearing Act does have a 2-minute cooldown, so we can theoretically revive someone every 2 minutes instead of every 15 minutes, because all classes that can be healers have no cooldown on their out of combat res. So again, we can take advantage of that. Again, if people are dying, if we're doing pugs or anything like that, it might be worth getting. Sedatives is kind of useless for PvE. When Tranquilizer wears off, the target is stuck by sedatives, reducing damage dealt by 50% for the next 10 seconds. PvP thing. Dirty Trickster. Surrender will also purge movement effects when activated. Again, going to be situational. There are certain, particularly HM flashpoints, there's a lot of movement impairing effects, so using your Surrender as your threat dump. I like Surrender, it's a cool looking ability. It just goes, ah! She dropped her gun. She just decided to drop her gun. I love the Smuggler. It is an awesome class, the Smuggler. So again, it is very, very useful on those bosses. Keep cool. Cool Head restores 15 additional energy. Energy management can be an issue at times for us. So again, just popping Cool Head and getting that 15 immediate energy. No energy, no DPS is the main thing, or very limited DPS is the main thing. Our main energy conservation ability is Shank Shot, mostly if we're at melee range. Flurry of Bolts if we are at range, basically, because we can be up to 10 meters away. We'll move on to Heroic. Get the Bulge. Tendon Blast will now grant an upper hand stack. Very, very useful, because if what we don't want to be in a situation is, the situation we don't want to be in when we come to our rotation is having Bludgeon on cooldown and having no stacks of upper hand. Having Bludgeon, Backblast, and Blood Boiler on cooldown. These three can be on cooldown and we have no upper hand. Our option is going to be then Tendon Blast could get us upper hand, because we always want to be generating and spending upper hand. That is the fundamentals of the spec. Sucker Punch for single target and Blaster Volley for AoE are what spend upper hand for us. Also Colto Pack as well. We still have that. We've lost Underworld Medicine as well. Another thing we've lost, the Scoundrel. We lost a hell of a lot this class. So again, it's just an extra ability to generate upper hand. There are situations that we get into when it does come in handy. So I like to take that, because Tendon Blast is pretty nice. It doesn't do a lot of damage, Tendon Blast. We don't really care about its damage. We just want the upper hand, because we want to get back to punching things in the face. That is what this spec is all about. Skedaddle is when Disappearing Act is activated, it grants us 2 seconds of dodge. Again, can be useful as a defensive cooldown. Again, dodge is another good defensive cooldown. Increases the chance to dodge melee and ranged attacks by 200% for 3 seconds. Doesn't break stealth. It also acts as a cleanse if we're in healer spec. I don't think it does it in DPS. I think it's just in the Sawbones spec. I'm pretty sure it's just a Sawbones thing with dodge. I know it works for Sawbones because I've used it plenty of times, but I don't know if it works in Scrapper. KO when used from the back blast and point blank shot. Interrupts and immobilizes the target for 3 seconds. Can be useful if we need an extra interrupt KO. Again, but it is very situational, you know, distract is our main interrupt. But if something needs to be interrupted in PvE, we can use Backblast to interrupt them and immobilize them for 3 seconds, unless they're immune to it. Most bosses are immune to interrupts, so for bosses it's not the best. So there are situational uses of that. Scramble, every time we get attacked, the cooldown of our dodge is reduced by 3 seconds. Again, can be nice. If we're getting hit by a lot of ranged and melee attacks, then yeah, then it's pretty decent. If we're getting hit by a lot of tech and force attacks, not so good dodge. We're better off with things like smuggled defenses. Surprise comeback. Pugnacity now grants a surprise comeback, restoring 5% of a total health every 3 seconds, reduces damage received by 20% for the duration. Is again pretty cool actually. Pugnacity is our main offensive cooldown, increases alacrity by 10%. It increases alacrity and grants upper hand. So if we've got no upper hand and we want some alacrity, we can either use Tendon Blast or Pugnacity, again, to just grant us that upper hand, because again, the fundamentals of the spec are to generate an upper hand. Also giving you 5% total healing is pretty nice, and reducing damage taken by 20% for the duration is very, very nice actually. It's a good, decent defensive cooldown. We probably don't really want to take it because we want to use Pugnacity in an offensive capacity. As a healer, we tend to want this. We look at this and say, yeah, we probably want this as a healer. Depends on what type of damage. If we're taking constant damage, if we're taking spike damage, then we're going to take Hot Wire Defense. Again, useful if you are going to take spike damage. Again, the not so huge grenade is a good example. It increases the amount absorbed by our defense screen by 30%. So if we're gonna get hit by something's gonna hit us particularly hard, like that really huge grenade, then it is very useful. Bear in mind, it synergizes nicely with med screen as well. So not only will we'll absorb more damage, but we'll get a 5% heal at the end of that, making it makes defense screen one of our most powerful defensive cooldowns really. And again, smuggled defenses reduces the cooldown of escape by 30 seconds and defense screen by 5 seconds. And smuggle, which is the grip stealth ability, which I don't even have on my bar, believe it or not, because I don't do PvP, so it's kind of useless in PvE, smuggle, unless you just want to look cool, because you can't skip most things in PvE. Anyway, so yeah. Again, reduce the cooldown of escape, useful if you're getting stunned. Escape is your breakout stun. Reduce the cooldown of defense screen by 5 seconds. They have increased the cooldown of defense screen, so they increased it to 30 seconds, so getting it back to 25 means we can use it more often. Again, it's going to come down to a choice, basically, between, I would suggest, these two. If we're doing sort of normal questing stuff, we can take get the bulge. But if we're doing sort of progression, I don't know if there's any... well, in fact, it's a melee class. You won't be doing progression with it. It's a melee class. What the fuck am I thinking? We're not going to do it. It's a melee. You don't do progression with melee. But again, you're going to come down to the choice. If there's a lot of damage... Now, I'm looking at this from a healer perspective. As a healer, it tends to be a choice between these two. DPS is probably going to be a choice for progression. If we're taking a lot of damage, then I like a lot of damage over the course of the fight, i.e. under Lurker, because a lot of AoE damage going out. We're definitely going to take this in addition to this. We are going to take Surprise Comeback, because it's an extra defensive cooldown. It gives us a third defensive cooldown, which is pretty nice for us. I mean, we do want that. And again, it's 5% total health, 20% less damage is pretty nice. However, if we're taking spike damage, a la Sword Squadron, where there is a chance we can get the not so huge grenade, then we're probably going to go with hot wire defenses. So it depends on the encounter which one of these two you're going to take. Generally smuggle defense we want, because we want to be using this more often. We want to be using our defensive cooldown more often, and if there is bosses that are stunning us, then again we can get our cooldown on our stun. There's a lot of stuns going out, not just in PvP, but in PvE in general as well, so getting the cooldown of escape reduced is pretty nice. Smuggle is a PvP thing. Generally, it's what you do. You can hide your numbers if you're going to capture an objective. You can just use smuggle and like stealth. I think it stealths up to 8 people. Stealth. I think is it 8 people? I think it can stealth. I can't remember. It's been a while since we've done PvP as a Scoundrel. We leveled this class mostly through PvP, but again, we'll get to the meat of the thing, the rotation, and again, the rotation revolves around keeping, you never ever want to be using, basically the golden rule is spend your upper hand when you get it, okay? You do not want to be sitting on 2 stacks of upper hand. In Scrapper Spec, the maximum stacks is 2. We do not want to be sitting on 2 stacks. So if we have 2 stacks upper hand, our next ability must be an upper hand spending ability. Now it's going to be Sucker Punch or Blaster Volley, or if the shits hit the fan, Colto Pack. So we're going to be using that. Bear in mind you can use Slow Release Med Pack as well. We've gained that instead of Underworld Medicine. So I just keep that keybind spare. So what we want to do is this. We've got the Triage Adrenals because we're a healer. Got our Triage Adrenals in here. That's why I've got them. Don't complain. Why have you got Triage Adrenals for DPS? Because they lower your damage taken. Reduces damage dealt by 20%. Never pop them. So you have to try and avoid hitting that that button as a DPS, but we don't raid as a DPS, we raid as a healer. So our goal is to get our flechette round up as soon as possible. So our opener generally, we're going to start in stealth. It doesn't really make any difference, but we generally want to start from stealth. We want to be close to the boss, again close to the back of the boss without pulling it. That's an art that we can get. So if the boss has automatic stealth detection, it is a bit of a pain in the arse for us. Just be wary of that. So if this is our boss, we generally want to just be maybe a little bit further back from it. Yeah, maybe about at the maximum range. 4 meters is our melee range. So we want to get our thing off, then we want to get that off, and you see we've got a stack of upper hand, so we want to be spending it. We get another stack, spend it again, and then it's generate upper hand, and then just spend it with sucker punches. And you can see we were in that situation there where bludgeon was on cooldown and Tendon Blast was available, so we used Tendon Blast. So what you want to do is keep Back Blast on cooldown, keep Blood Boiler on cooldown. Bear in mind that if Back Blast is not available and Blood Boiler is, use Blood Boiler and then Vital Shot, or bear in mind that it does last 14 seconds. So bear in mind that you've got 14 seconds to hit a Back Blast. There you see it explodes, does a lot of damage. It is our best damage ability, is Blood Boiler. So just bear that in mind, that it's always going to take you 14 seconds. So the cooldown for that's 11 seconds anyway. So always just keep Blood Boiler up. You want to keep your Blood Boiler up. If you want it to proc quicker, use Vital Shot. If you're tired of waiting for that to come off cooldown. So Back Blast on cooldown, and we are generating as much upper hand as we can. So we'll just pop our Blood Boiler. We got we need to start from stealth. We'll pop a Disappearing Axe, so we're in stealth. Yeah, because if we start from stealth, we get upper hand with Blood Boiler. We'll wait for these things to wear off. So you get your flechette round. Your flechette round increases your armor penetration. It's just the same as it was before, but it is just a passive. So we get that. We get our stack of upper hand up. We want to get our Blood Boiler off. Then we want to be spending upper hand. Get another stack there, and then there we go. Right back into it. And there you can see we're in that situation there where it is a few seconds to come off cooldown. It is a few. So we want to be generating Tendon Blast, and again so use your Tendon Blast to generate upper hand. Use it because we don't want to sit and wait for this. We don't want to be waiting for these two to come off cooldown. We'll get that situation up again. We've messed it up there. We forgot to be in stealth again. Got to be in stealth. Forgot the fundamentals of the spec there myself. Hurry up. Get out of combat. There we go. Wait for Bloodborne to come off cooldown. Right, so we'll get that off. Get that up. Fire off our 2 punches. Punch, punch, that off, get a punch off, and there we've got a few seconds there for it to come off cooldown. So we want to generate that upper hand. So it's like a couple of seconds. We don't want to wait. We could use Shank Shot, but we'd rather use Tendon Blast and get a stack of upper hand, because if we could get Back Blast off cooldown and then spend the upper hand and then use the Bludgeon again to generate the upper hand, it just saves us waiting. It just minimizes our downtime on it, on this effect. We've also lost what else we lost Sabotage Charge as well. Charge Burst, should we be using that? If we need to be at range for an extended period of time, we'll show you we're about 20 meters away, we'll get about 20 odd meters away, then we can use Charge Burst. So if we need to be at range, then I would suggest using Charge Burst, but you don't really use it as part of your regular rotation because it does have a 30 meter range. We don't really use cover that often in this spec. Charge Burst, we can use it out of cover as well, but I just keep it cover just for the sake of not having too many key bindings on the bar. Just have V as cover, because I use F for something else. We use F for our heals. So again, if you need to be at range, because there are times when we might need to be at range, so we've got an ability to use at range. Ooh, decided not to do it there for some weird reason. Probably a lag spike. But yeah, that is basically, we never want to be generating upper hand when we have 2 full stacks upper hand. I would suggest never getting 2 full stacks of upper hand. Always spend it while you got it. Bear in mind that Sucker Punch does have a chance to proc a second one. Where is it? It's Rolling Punches or something. But I can't find the thing. So let's talk about... I can't find the thing here. Where is the thing? But it does proc it. I don't remember. There it is. Flying Fist. Sucker Punch triggers Flying Fist, which deals an additional damage as a second target. So there you go. So that's what that was. It does re-grant you upper hand as well with Flying Fists as well. One of the things we're going to talk about gearing. Now this spec is very heavy into crit. The crit is our priority. My gear is not worth looking at, to be honest with you, because it is mostly healer. We've just got like the odd couple of accuracy pieces, but of course accuracy should be capped. You want to be capping your accuracy, and then you want crit, then surge. I have alacrity because I'm a healer mostly, that's why I have 4% alacrity. Alacrity not huge in this stat. We want to be critting, because if we look at our abilities, we've got Underdog, which we get at level 56, which again increases the critical damage dealt by Back Blast, Sucker Punch, and Blood Boiler and Bludgeon by 30%. That is huge. We want, the goal for this spec is to get these abilities, particularly Blood Boiler, critting for as much as possible. So we want crit. We definitely, crit is our top thing. I would take crit, definitely, and bear in mind that Pressure Cooker as well. Increase the critical damage dealt and critical chance of Blood Boiler by 5%. So we're all about crit. Basically, we are every single thing. There it is. Round 2. Flying Fist immediately regrants upper hand when hitting a bleeding target. Yeah, so the target has to be bleeding. The target will be bleeding when it's hit with our Back Blast. We used to hit Vital Shot to get our bleeds up. It used to be a target under the effect of Vital Shot, but Vital Shot is quite expensive. That's why we don't tend to use it. If we're going to be away from the target, then putting Vital Shot up is definitely worth it. And again, you know, Blood Boiler, its range is 10 meters. So again, if we want to be a bit away from the target, if we're in front of the target, then Vital Shot will proc our Blood Boiler. So bear that in mind if we have to be. But it is very much crit based. Again, Back Blast grants Rolling Punches, which increases ranged and tech crit chance by 15%. And, you know, so again, things like that. A lot of things here are crit. So it is going to be crit. Probably I got 26 and 25.7. This is because of aim. That's why there's a difference, because aim affects your ranged crit as well. So if we go for the aim datacrons, then you get different values for your crit based on that. But we want as much crit as possible. As a result, we are going to augment for cunning. We're going to augment for our main stat. So grab as much crit, and the rest is going to go into surge. Surge to about 75, crit at about maybe 28, 29, maybe even 30, nudging 30% crit, because we want those things to crit. And they get a 30% damage buff the more they crit. So the more crits we can get out, the more damage we do as a Scrapper Scoundrel. It is very much based around crit. Power is still pretty decent, actually, so don't go beyond 30% crit, I would suggest. Then take power, but again, that Blood Boiler crits are insane. They crit for insane amounts of damage, to be honest with you, with Blood Boiler. So again, that's how we play it from a PvE standpoint. So anyway, that is all for this video. Thank you for joining me, and we've went on for a while, haven't we? So thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again soon, and goodbye.